halfway through the NFL season, and I think Neil is probably checked out after last week. So
Done.
we'll see how much longer you make it, and then
Yeah, the show will probably pick up again in February.
yeah. And
When we get
I kind of felt that way on Sunday, but I also predicted that Lions would win by a
Yeah,
goal.
you got that right, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't a great weekend for us, but we are here nonetheless because we are dedicated to all 5 listeners that tune in. So it's halfway through the year. So instead of doing 5 takeaways or going for or settling for 3, I would say going for 3, but it's settling for 3. But anyway, we're gonna do halfway.
Well, it works, but going for 3 kind of seems like a basketball.
It does, yeah. So
Yeah.
this is not a basketball podcast. We like real sports. I'm just kidding. I like basketball too, actually. But we're going for we are gonna provide you our midway, our halfway season awards. So MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, your Rookies of the Year on both sides of the ball, and then I'm gonna avoid Comeback Player of the Year because number one, I think it's a stupid award and no one should care about it. And then number 2 is it just becomes a Joe Flacco versus Damar Hamlin type of
Yeah.
debate, and I don't really care. So
Yeah, like Joe Flacco wasn't even playing at this time last year.
yeah, and Damar Hamlin didn't play that much last year either. If anything, Damar Hamlin has a better case this year to be the Comeback Player of the Year because he's actually contributing to the Bills' defense.
Yeah.
When he didn't last year, but people, he got considered because he came back from a heart attack, which is inspiring, but I wouldn't call that worthy of an award. Maybe an ESPY, but no one cares about those either. Anyway, so I'm going to start with you. I think we both have the answer to this question, but on a count of 3, name your MVP. 1, 2, 3.
Lamar Jackson.
Okay, yeah. It's Lamar Jackson's the MVP of the year. If anything, he wasn't really deserving last year, but it's like he's actually pretty deserving this year. I think he's been by far the best player in the NFL.
Without a doubt. That I was looking at his adjusted net yards per attempt, like the stat that I brought up there last week.
It might have improved after last week.
It's now the best of all time.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He's having an Aaron Rodgers 2011 or Peyton Manning 2004 type season.
Yes.
And what's crazy is that the Chiefs are going to still waltz to the 1 seed, and
the MVP won't win the Super Bowl again this year.
Yeah. And the Ravens, they're 6-3. I think the only way he probably loses this race in the MVP, the only way he loses the MVP race, I guess I should say, is if he gets hurt. The Ravens just completely stumbled down the stretch, but I think that would also be caused by a decline in his performance. So I think basically if the Ravens continue to be on a playoff-bound path, I think he's going to end up with this award. Josh Allen's not going to win it. Mahomes is already out. On the NFC side, I think you could make a case for Jared Goff, who's been crazy efficient, but I don't think he's going to put up the volume statistics that would get him across the finish line, and he doesn't run. Jaden Daniels might get some consideration, but I think Lamar is just a better version of what Jaden Daniels has been in terms of production and winning.
Mm-hmm.
And he beat Jaden Daniels head-to-head earlier in the year. I mean, outside of those guys, anybody else you think that would get? I mean, Mahomes shouldn't be considered at all, but people still bring him up. I don't.
I guess there's a scenario where if the Bengals won the division somehow, Burrow would be considered.
I think Burrow is I think Burrow is the ball knower MVP. Where if you watch the Bengals all year, you realize
MVP of last year.
where you've realized how valuable, like, if you put a replacement level quarterback on the Bengals, they would be the Raiders. But they're at least treading water because of how great Joe Burrow has been this
year. They're in the same position they've been in the last 4 years, which means they're going to make a run as long as Burrow is healthy.
Are the Bengals wasting Joe Burrow's prime? Next on First Take. Or whatever television.
They probably will. If it's the Bengals, they probably will do something to waste it.
Well, once Aaron Rodgers retires, like, you gotta have something to talk about. So yeah. But so we have MVP. I think we decide on that. Offensive Player of the Year, I think, is a little more interesting because I think there's a lot of really good players, but I think you actually stay on the same team.
Yeah, I was going to say I would probably go with Derrick Henry, but I wonder, would that hurt Lamar's MVP if he has the Offensive Player of the Year? Because then he's technically not the most valuable player, Well, he is, but like,
I think you're seeing a type of, it's not the same offense in terms of style, but it reminds me a lot of like the Rams from the early 2000s where you had like Marshall Faulk and Kurt Warner on the same team. And it's like,
that makes me wonder,
they still won MVPs.
Who was the Offensive Player of the Year in 1999?
It wasn't Moss because he won in 98. So Faulk, so we've seen it before.
Yeah. And ironically, that was the last time. Are the Ravens going to win the Super Bowl?
Could happen. And what's interesting is if Lamar wins a third MVP and then wins a Super Bowl, I mean, I'm not putting him in the conversation of Mahomes necessarily, but like, he is entering.
He definitely elevates his status.
I mean, I think he passes Drew Brees.
Oh yeah, for sure.
On the all-time, like, people, I don't think. I think
maybe one MVP behind Rodgers at that point.
I think in terms of all-time like players, I think Lamar Jackson's actually underrated in terms of like NFL history and where he's considered in it already. I don't think from a current, like, who's the best player in the NFL, so many people would say Lamar, but they're not ready to have that conversation, which they should be. I think he's been that good. I think I guess a big question people will have is like, how long can he sustain it with his style of play?
Yeah.
I think he's actually proving that he can sustain it because he's getting better as a passer every year.
I after like 2021, 2022, I would not have expected this.
Yeah. So we agree on MVP and Offensive Player of the Year.
Yes.
Defensive Player of the Year.
This is a difficult one.
Because I don't feel like there's a guy that's just standing out. Like, I thought Aiden Hutchinson, if he had stayed healthy, I think was on his way to winning it.
Yes, Aiden Hutchinson was going to run away with it if he had stayed healthy.
But like TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, like the other guys that people like consider the best players, like, they don't have the sack numbers. Trey Hendrickson's currently in the lead for 11 sacks, but he's probably not going to win it. I think a guy that should get considered, but he won't win it either, is Xavier McKinney for the Packers. But you could also argue now Kirby Joseph, who has 6 interceptions himself.
I think we're both looking at the same lists.
Yeah, so I think that award I will declare. I don't know, honestly. Like, I know that's a weak answer, but I don't think anybody has an argument. But that will be decided probably in the second half of the season.
I think. I think I would give it to Trey Hendrickson just because I could see the Bengals.
He's their only good player on defense.
Yeah, he's the only good player on that defense right now. Yeah. So,
but in like their lack of team success on that side of the ball, I think hurts his, because this is still a voter thing, and no one thinks, Bengals defensive player.
And actually, the funny thing is with Aiden Hutchinson, like, we thought, like, I mean, obviously he was far and away the runaway leader in that.
He was averaging over a sack a game.
His pressures, like, he had more than double the pressures of the second guy, whoever was second in pressures when he got injured. But the funny thing is, the Lions defense has not missed a beat without him.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
Well, yeah, they're getting a lot of production from their defensive backfield, and actually a lot of people, before the season, that was like their big weakness. But the Lions, and we'll get into them. They're actually, in my opinion, where their strength of their defense has been in turning the ball over. And is that sustainable? I don't know, but they're really, I think, with the loss of Hutchinson, I think the guys in the back end have stepped up. With Brian Branch got kicked out of the game last week, but Kirby Joseph has been a very impactful player. Like, I think it's been a really, really good defensive backfield unit. But I'm not, like I said, I guess Hendrickson by default, but I don't feel great about that pick in terms of me and in terms of thinking he'll actually win it. By the end of the season. Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Definitely Jayden Daniels.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty easy choice. I think if it weren't Jayden Daniels, I think that's the interesting conversation. Because I think there's really a three-way tie, in my opinion, for second. I think Caleb Williams is still very deserving of consideration. I think he, especially not the last 2 weeks necessarily, but before that, I think you can see kind of the impact he's made, especially from a leadership standpoint, in my opinion. But I also think Bo Nix and Brock Bowers deserve heavy consideration as well. But they're not even close. None of those are close to Jayden Daniels right now.
No.
Jayden Daniels is going to get MVP votes, possibly. So, yeah, Daniels wins Offensive Rookie of the Year, and then Defensive Rookie of the Year so far. I mean, I also think this is a pretty easy choice for me.
Jared Verse.
Yeah, Jared Verse for the Rams. And go figure, they make a first-round pick, and he's the best defensive player in the draft. So, awesome.
How that happens.
The Packers only take, outside of quarterback Jordan Love in 2020, it was 14 years of just defensive players, and none of them are that good. We draft Lucas Van Ness, and he's nothing.
A rotational piece.
Well, apparently he's got to be something now because they traded Preston Smith.
That's true.
But we talked a lot about the Ravens, and they're the first game this weekend.
We talked about the Bengals too.
Yeah. Must-win game for the Bengals, I think.
Oh, definitely.
This Thursday night. They should have beat Baltimore, actually, I guess about a month ago when they played. Bengals, I think 4-5. The first thing is if you want any chance of winning the division, you have to win this game. Even then, if you probably have an outside chance of winning the division, but the division's over if you get swept by the Ravens.
Yes.
That being said, in this game, I think the way Burrow's playing, he's going to keep them in it.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference right now, in my opinion, in this matchup is that the Ravens are a much better team all around than the Bengals. I think they're more, how should I say this, well-rounded. Their defense has actually started to play a little bit better in the last couple of weeks. It could just be that they played a rookie quarterback last week at home. But I'm going to take the Ravens here, and I'm actually going to take them by 6. I'm taking them right on that line. I think they're about a touchdown better than Cincinnati. I want Cincinnati to win this, though, for the sake of interesting. I do not want both conferences being runaway division races, and we're starting to get that. And I'm not a fan of it. I think Detroit's going to run away with the NFC North. I think Baltimore is, once they beat Pittsburgh, I think they run away with the AFC North. I don't like these. I want some good races. And Cincinnati winning this game makes it a 3-way race in this division. Because I don't think anybody's buying the Steelers as a possible 14-3, 13-4 type of team.
No.
So that I'm going with the Ravens in this game, but I want the Bengals to win. I'll say 26-20.
I was going to say 27-20 Baltimore. I also think it's going to be a good game. Next week is also supposed to be a pretty good Thursday night game. I think it's Washington and Philly next week. So we at least have a couple to look forward to.
The Thursday night games outside of last week sucked, but
Well,
a
you get
team.
like a good one and then a bad one, a good one and a bad one.
Yeah,
So
well, the week before that was Rams-Vikings, and I thought that was a really good
yeah,
matchup.
but even before that was a bad one, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
I think it's just when they involve the Jets or the Steelers. I just don't know why.
Yeah.
But
The Seahawks game, that was a bad one.
yeah.
And then but no, I mean, good for Thursday Night Football, I guess. It's definitely the weakest slot that you can put a matchup into any week. So it's good anyways that they're filling it with some now that we're getting on the back stretch of the season, they're filling it with some important divisional games. But yeah, no, I think Baltimore is they're obviously they're going to be they're a maddening team because they have 2 losses that are just you're beside yourself for how they lost those games.
Yeah, the Raider game is just I still cannot fathom the idea that the Raiders beat Baltimore and the next week they lost to Carolina.
I would be saying though that Kansas City would be hoping that Baltimore wins this game too, though, because Kansas City would much rather get Baltimore.
Cincinnati's a team historically that can play them.
That they can play them, but also I would feel Kansas City would rather see Baltimore in the AFC Championship than as a wild card coming into Arrowhead in the divisional round.
Yeah.
When they're 17-0.
Cincinnati's a team that like what's so frustrating about them is like I just feel like if they had the better personnel, like if they had Jesse Bates on this team,
yes,
how much of a difference would that make? Like their back end is so bad, and their offensive line has not played well. Like, even though they blew out the Raiders, like you could see how frustrated Burrow was.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many like things that are just missing from this team. Another great example is like you have all this talent. They love the talent of Jermaine Burton, but like doesn't show up to meetings, so they can't play him. Like there's just a couple missing things from the Bengals where if they put a few pieces together, it suddenly becomes a pretty formidable type of team in the AFC. I think I agree with you though. I think Kansas City is watching this game. I don't think they want any part of Cincinnati coming back to Arrowhead in January. Like if that's one of the teams I would circle for them. Like I'd be almost more scared of Burrow than I would be of Josh Allen and Lamar in January going there.
Yeah.
That's weird to say because in a vacuum you would take both Allen and Lamar ahead of them, but against the Chiefs, like Burrow's
got the aura, as the kids say.
Well, and I think like that's something you can't prepare for, like his style of play where it's just like dude just steps up and makes freaking like unreal throws in the clutch. Yeah. It's like I'm trying to think of like another sport comparison. He just has like Derek Jeter never reminded me of like the most talented shortstop, but damn it, like it's game 6 in the World Series, like Derek Jeter's gonna come in like and make a big play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So Burrow has that same quality. I just don't know if the team's good enough around him to get there. So on paper, I'm taking the Ravens, but I want the Bengals to win. How many games do we get like this?
Well, this is a quarter of the
Germany game
right now is very bad.
Yeah, they said this is revenge for World War II.
Oh, that's right. It's in Germany.
Yeah, because this is like the game where they said
the Geneva Convention would not.
Yeah, it's like at the very bottom. It's like you're gonna get Bryce Young versus Daniel Jones in an island game. I'm going to take the Panthers here. That's crazy to say. I think both teams are very bad, and I'll say this about the Panthers: they've looked better the last couple weeks on offense. They're both of these teams I think are pretty putrid on defense, especially in their secondaries. But I've been liking the way Bryce Young played. That's about all I have to say. Daniel, and granted, I guess the Giants played pretty well last week against the Commanders. I think it's just a weird game. I'm going to take the upset because I don't give a crap about this game anyway. Give me the Panthers 20-14. Like, it's going to be ugly.
I think the Giants will win because I mean, it's not saying much, but I
They
think
are
the
better
Giants,
than the Panthers.
yeah, I
But
think they are somewhat better than what their record shows.
I
But
don't
I
know.
mean, which is not saying much. They're still not a good team.
Yeah, they're still a hard watch even when they're playing
Yes.
well.
And I just think I think this is a game that Giants defensive line might be able to
Wreak
take
havoc.
over a little bit and wreak a little bit of havoc
Yeah.
on
That's what
Bryce Young.
But that's one thing that I actually noticed about Young last week. That was the first time I can recall in his career where, like, he actually got some pressure against him because the Saints brought, you know, that's one thing the Saints defense still has is, like, they still have some type of semblance of a pass rush.
Right.
They were sort of getting after him, and, like, he was stepping into his throws, and he was throwing the ball over the middle of the field on his tippy toes. But I'm not saying he was good, but he's basically what we're asking for Bryce Young is not to be the worst QB in the league, and I don't think he played like it. In this type of game, it's just who's less bad. I don't know. I'll take the Panthers. You take the Giants. I don't want to spend any more time on this game.
Yeah.
Can't believe we have to watch that on an island game.
I won't be watching
it. Bears Patriots. I will take the Bears here. I'll say this about the Bears. The dysfunction is not very heartwarming right now. It's kind of amazing that 3 weeks ago, after they had beat Jacksonville heading into their bye, it was kumbaya and butterflies and everything was great. And Caleb Williams was going to, I think it was Maurice Jones-Drew, like in their post-game show on NFL Network, was like, that's why I picked him to win the NFC North. And I was like, hold on.
Which is weird because he picked the Jaguars to win that game.
Yeah. But he was, I can't remember if it was him or somebody else, but it was one of the analysts for NS. I think the Bears are a talented team, but last week was so disappointing.
It was Mark Trestman era type of bad last
How
week.
do you let you lost a fluke game to a team that's been good all year? Like get over it. Like that's like let the fans sulk in the loss. You're a professional football player.
When it came out when the Sports Center had like a on the field thing with Courtney Cronin on Sunday morning, and that's when like she kind of she was making heads or tails of how are the Bears going to deal with this. They felt like, which is for the Bears in all my years of watching the Bears, it's always a death sentence when you hear that they had a great week of practice. It usually means that they're going to get throttled on Sunday. And like I said, those are some of the things that Mark Trestman used to talk about, like how well they practice and guys are showing up to work and just meaningless things to say that have no bearing on how you're going to play on Sunday, in all honesty. But it's as a Bears fan, it sounds crazy to say this. I mean, I don't want them to lose, but if the game is close towards the end, I'll be probably kind of half rooting for New England to win it.
I'm telling you, I think y'all might lose this game because
I wouldn't be surprised at all if they do.
I think the Patriots have something.
The Bears are very battered right now too. There's a lot of injuries right now, and there's going to be a lot more injuries because guys aren't going to want to play.
Yeah, the Patriots are bad, right? The Bears are so much better than the Patriots in terms of roster build and all that. And I even think coaching. I don't think Gerard Mayo is good. But the vibes around this Bears team, DJ Moore needs to shut the hell up. Okay, first of all. And at the same time, Mark Trestman needs to grow up. You know what?
Matt Eberflus.
What did I say? Did I say Mark Trestman?
Yeah.
Same guy. Matt Eberflus is like, you're letting, for example, the thing that DJ Moore in that game did two things that it like flat out pissed me off. I'm not a Bears fan. So he like stopped on the route and just walked off the field.
He was on the bench before the play even ended.
And your quarterback's literally known. That's his biggest strength. We always talk about is buying time and making like basically off script.
Yeah.
Make a play for your that's your leader. And then at the end of the game, he shoulder bumps him. That's like such a disrespectful thing to do. And that's your leader. Like it doesn't matter. Your quarterback is your team leader. And if your quarterback's not your team leader, you're not going to win. And DJ Moore reminds me of somebody that's never won in his NFL career when he does shit like that. Pardon my language. But like it just that kind of crap like shows me that this team ain't ready. And I think a lot of it, I agree with you. It's like I think if Jim Harbaugh coached this team, does that type of stuff happen?
Oh gosh, no.
Do they go on the radio? Does Tyreek Stevenson do what he did in Washington? No. The Hail Mary still could have happened though. Like I don't want people to think there was causation with him celebrating early and that caused the Hail Mary to happen. That did not happen. Like he got back in the play. Yeah. But it's more of the lack of discipline. There's no leadership. I think the only leader on this team is Caleb.
Yeah.
Like that's what pissed me off so much is DJ Moore sitting there sulking at the end of the game. Your quarterback's busting his ass, dude. Like
they left him in the game
he got hurt.
He got hurt. I mean,
yeah, he's battling and you show him up like that, I'd suspend him a game. I'm telling you. Like I hate that crap. Like what Romeo Doubs did earlier this year, where like he becomes a distraction when he does that. No, you don't play if you're gonna do that. Like if you're gonna cause a riff, and like very few players are irreplaceable. And the guy you showed up is probably the only player on your team that actually is irreplaceable. DJ Moore can be suspended the rest of the season, and the Bears win total maybe drops a game. Maybe.
Yeah.
That kind of crap bugged me, but ultimately that stuff that DJ Moore did and a few other and like what he said on the radio, it's on him to do that. But at the same time, like I think it's also a reflection of Matt Eberflus and his ability to lead his team. Because like I said, Bill Belichick coaches this team. If Jim Harbaugh's coaching this team, does that happen? I don't think so. So I'm not necessarily ready to fire Eberflus, but and I'll say this though: if you lose this game, we're done.
Well,
and I can see it happening. I do not like where the Bears are right now, from a mental standpoint and their vibe. I guess I hate that word, but like, and Drake May is exciting. I think this is an upset alert kind of game.
Yeah. I'm going to pick New England to win.
Not going
this
that
would
far.
probably be the last game I would even pick the Bears to win all year. So I'm not going to pick them. So the next time I pick the Bears to win will hopefully be week 1 next year.
I actually think y'all are going to win convincingly, but it's going to be
actually.
Yeah. I'm going 21-6. I think the Patriots are really bad. They won a fluke game against a garbage team last week, but Drake May makes a couple fluke plays with his athleticism. Like then I think that it's one of those games. Like remember Rodgers in 2018 against the Bills? Like we won 21-0. And that's when you knew this.
That. Yeah.
It was Josh Allen's first season. So we shut them out on defense. And I was like, I watched that game. I'm like, it's been ugly, but we're shutting the Bills out. Like it's good. And like this was when the Bills sucked. But like Rodgers in his post-game press conference is like, that was a pathetic performance. And I got like, oh wow. It hit me. I'm like, this is a 7-9 team.
Yeah.
This is not a playoff team. The way they're talking. I get that vibe a little from Chicago. And that's what worries me is like, are they going to have that kind of game where like, yeah, they win 21-6, but you don't leave that game feeling any better than you did last week?
No,
it's going to be that kind of game. I think
the Packers game next week with my brother for Sean Galway for his 30th birthday.
Yeah, I think that's shaping up for it to be.
Oh, it's going to be the only reason. I mean,
that could give you Eberflus fired if you lose this game and then the Green Bay game the following. Like the fan base would not be able to take that.
I even like everyone's going to be on edge already on Sunday. If it's close at all in the fourth quarter, I think this team could crack. And I mean, imagine blowing another game that like I could see this being a game where they're up 10 or something like that, and New England comes back and another big lead that Matt Eberflus. Do you know Matt Eberflus has blown 24 games as a defensive play caller?
Yeah, because he was with the Colts too and did it
that's not even possible.
It's because it's the way his defense is, because like it's one of the least aggressive defenses in the NFL.
Which brings me back to what I said a few weeks ago. I think I could coach that defense and get similar results. There's not
based.
And Montez Sweat is hurt. Andrew Billings is out for the year, so there goes your run fits defensively. So
we'll see the mental makeup of this team this week. That's it's one of those like games inside the game where I'm not just like looking at you. If you're gonna judge this game, you have to watch it. You can't just look at the box score.
I'll tell you what, if they were to lose this game and they were to fire Eberflus and Christmas came early, and I'll tell you, that would be the best thing that would happen to me in a long time. If they fired Eberflus.
Just got the number one pick from another team. That's the best thing that happened.
Well, recently we'll say.
In the last 4 months, because that happened. Like, you drafted Caleb Williams in April or in May or in April. Yeah.
But
slow down.
But things aren't good here. Chicago is I mean, it is a terrible sports town right now. Every team sucks.
Yeah. Dude, you don't like Kobe White and Josh Giddey?
I hope the Bulls end up with Cooper Flagg next year.
He's going to Utah.
Probably.
Yeah.
We won't get that lucky.
You know, you could be a Hornets fan and you're always like, yeah, man, we're the 7 seed. Oh, we got Kemba Walker. We're fighting for a play-in tournament. So that's and I'm like, I used to be like, why don't we just trade Kemba, tank, and then we get like John Morant or Zion? And like, no, let's not do that. I go like,
let's stick with it.
Yeah, it's too bad. Next game, Bills Colts. I'm taking the Bills pretty comfortably. I think there's
I know it's in Indianapolis, but that's a pretty tight spread.
I think that we all got backup quarterback pilled last week.
Yeah, we sure.
We thought, oh well, Joe Flacco and Jameis are such big upgrades over, which they probably still are, but that doesn't make the Browns or the Colts good either. The Colts are not a good team. They're gonna keep Steichen, but after watching last week, I'm like, why does this team still employ Ballard? I don't get it. Like, what has he done with this team that makes they keep missing on quarterback? He's gotten multiple head coach. I guess he had Steichen and Reich. I don't know if I don't know if he's on his third or his second. He didn't hire Pagano?
No, he didn't. But he did make the weird decision of hiring Jeff Saturday off of the ESPN first take test.
Well, I think that was more Irsay, but
it probably was Irsay.
Yeah, but this team ain't that good. Like, there's nothing inspiring about the Colts.
He'll be a guy. He has so many friends around the league, Ballard, that he'll get a job right away.
Yeah,
and the Colts,
that's how it always works.
And the Colts, even if they do fire him, which they should, they'll come under fire. Look at what Chris Ballard did for this team, and Chris Ballard, and you'll start hearing leaks like Michael Lombardi, because he's friends with Ballard, will start coming out. Well, I heard Irsay handcuffed him, as a GM, and all these little things. They'll come out if Ballard does get fired, I bet.
There's GMs that are very hyped up by the media. Chris Ballard's one of them. And then there are GMs that are actually just really good at their jobs. Brandon Beane for the Bills. The Bills are very deep everywhere. It seems like they replenish their roster every season, despite not always really having the best draft capital to do it.
Didn't Brandon Beane come from the Moneyball A's?
That was Billy Beane.
Billy Beane. Yeah.
Yeah, but Brandon Beane is the GM of the Bills. I can't remember where he came from first.
Carolina, actually.
Was he with Carolina?
Yeah, he was with
Carolina
God,
that has to make
career.
That has to make Panther fans sick. Is because McDermott and Brandon Beane came from the Panthers?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, and they're just like they're all sitting there like, look what we have now. Like the Bills get Josh Allen and this guy, like, and the team's always good. But I think the Bills are a much better team. I'm surprised it's only a 4-point spread.
Yeah.
I think the Bills win by 10 points here.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna take the Bills 27-13.
Yeah, I'll call it 30-20. Broncos, Chiefs. Think that this is a perfect line.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, what Broncos team am I gonna get? The one I got last week or the week before? I think a lot of it is based off of who are you playing? Are you playing a bad team or a good team? If the Broncos play a bad team, they're much better.
Yeah, they look great.
This is a definition of an average team. Like, league median, the Broncos are like 15th, right there. Like, borderline playoff team. Are they beating the Chiefs? Are they beating the Ravens? Are they beating Buffalo? Hell no. They are not doing that. I have been impressed with Sean Payton. I think he should be considered like halfway through the season for Coach of the Year, which I don't think we included that. I don't think he's like.
I would have picked Dan Quinn for that.
Dan Quinn's number one. I'm saying Sean Payton would be considered.
Oh yeah, he'd be
yeah. So because I think what he's done is actually pretty impressive. The team's not super talented. Remember, they're technically in the middle of their rebuild. And they still have
interesting thing, just kind of looking ahead. I'm going to take Kansas City to win this one, and I think
I agree. I think the Chiefs win too. I'm going to take the Chiefs by a touchdown.
I'm going to take Kansas City 26-17. The interesting thing about Kansas City is outside of Buffalo, which I think is next week for them, they'll be favored in every game the rest of the way, just about. But they do get Denver in Denver the last week of the season.
And they might have everything wrapped up.
If they're 16-0 going, I mean, I know that's, if some buts for candies.
But Denver could be also playing for a playoff spot.
And Denver could be playing for a playoff spot.
That would be the scenario we want.
That would be really interesting because would Kansas City rest their starters then,
I doubt it. I mean, it's not.
If they have a chance for 17-0, I guess they'd go for it.
And there is something to be said. It's like just same thing for the Brady Patriots. Like in 2007 with Belichick. They'd already won 3, just like the Chiefs now. I mean, yeah, another Super Bowl is awesome, and that's obviously the first goal you have. But, like, you're going to go for 17-0. Like, that's something like you've already checked the Super Bowl off 3 times. I'm convinced if you ask Tom Brady or Belichick, hey, you won 6 with the Patriots, would you trade and say, instead of winning 6, you win 4 or you win 5, but one of those is 19-0. I think they would trade that.
Oh yeah.
All right. So that's what I'm saying is like, and if that's the scenario and the Chiefs are undefeated, they are not resting their players.
That would be fun.
Yeah. But yeah, that's looking way ahead. And that's the thing though, is we keep thinking, oh, the Chiefs will drop one. I'm like, they're not. They win every week.
And actually, don't look now, but they're the 3rd best team in DVOA. They went from like 10th, and now they're going. So they're playing better.
They're running the ball better because when they got Hunt back, like in the mix, because Pacheco went down first week of the season, and I think as Hunt's gotten involved in the offense, they're more consistent now than they've been. And their defense is just so good that I think their DVOA is carried a lot by their great defense. So, but I will take the Chiefs here in a low scoring. Give me 24-17. But I'm not taking anything away from the Broncos. I think they've been really good this year, but I don't see them winning this game.
Yeah.
Steelers Commanders. This is probably I think this is the biggest game of the weekend.
Yeah, this is a pretty interesting one.
6-2 versus what are they
7-2 versus 6-2.
Yeah, this is a really good matchup, which no one on, back in August would have thought this game is a great game. I'm between a rock and a hard place on this one because, like, the Steelers' defense, one of the best units in the entire league. Like, but Jaden Daniels has been one of the most efficient passers in the sport. So, usually when there's a tie on that matchup, I actually side with the defense to keep it low scoring. But I also think the Steelers have been kind of a fluke, and I think they regress back to the mean here. I'm going to take the Commanders. I'm going to take them to win this game. And it's crazy to say that because that would put the Commanders at 8-2.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy to think about. I mean, we thought this team would be horrible at the start of the season.
They'd be pulling away with the second seed. I mean, with 7 games.
There's no such thing as a fluke once you're 8-2, in my opinion.
No.
Unless you're the 2022 Vikings, then that's a fluke.
Do you remember the year Kansas City started like 9-0?
21, or is that 2020, right?
No, like 2013. Like this was
when Alex Smith was there.
Alex Smith was there. I think it was Andy Reid's first year. And they were 9-0, but it was like a typical Alex Smith team, like, grinding out games, like winning kind of low scoring games. And then they ran into the Broncos like twice in 3 weeks and they got exposed. Like, so there are a few times that like you can have a really good record, but you just took and I think they still got into the playoffs, but that was the year that they blew the huge lead to Indianapolis, I think.
2014, I think, is the year.
2014, was it? Maybe. Okay, yeah, maybe it was that year. But no, I think I'm also going to take Washington. It'll be interesting to see how Mike Tomlin.
You're right. It was 2013. Andy Reid started his Chiefs career 9-0. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were terrible, absolutely awful in 2012. The Chiefs.
That was Romeo Crennel.
Yeah, and they haven't looked back ever since.
No, yeah, I think they've missed the playoffs like 2014. They missed,
and they were still a pretty decent team, if I remember.
Yeah, they missed the playoffs one time, and they had a winning record, I think, that year.
So 2012 is their last, and they were like 2-14. I want to say that year.
Yep. And then Todd Haley was there before.
Yeah. You're frozen, by the way.
Am I?
Yeah.
Let me turn my screen off.
But yeah.
Frozen now?
Now you're kind of buffering. Now you're just blank.
Awesome.
Your sound quality is fine though.
Okay. Well, we'll just keep it that way.
Yeah, it'll probably pop back on. I think Washington is going to win. I am kind of interested to see how Mike Tomlin deals with Jaden Daniels. He's obviously very familiar with a mobile quarterback who's got a great arm. He plays Lamar Jackson twice a year. So I'm sure it's going to be similar to how they play it. And actually, they do have some success against Lamar Jackson. So that'll be kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually, because Lamar struggles usually with the Steelers the most of any team. And Lamar Jackson's play style is very similar to Jaden Daniels in terms of his like pocket elusiveness, his scrambling ability.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty accurate passer. Like, I think Jaden Daniels is actually more accurate. I mean, he's like the most accurate passer in NFL history right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be a low scoring game, but I don't necessarily just buy that Russ is going to be like good enough to win the game on the road for them either.
And also, it's kind of funny that Pittsburgh ended up with Mike Williams after all the wide receiver talk that they had. They were going to get Brandon Ayuk, and then they were going to get Devontae. And
well, the worst part was they were going to get Christian Kirk.
Oh, that's right.
And then he got hurt. Yes. So they really couldn't get one. I don't. Yeah, if there's one team I just don't feel comfortable with having a gauge on, it's the Steelers because it's like they keep winning, and I don't really know how they do it, but they do it. So
they definitely put themselves in a position that they'll probably get their winning record streak continuing on, and they'll probably make the playoffs. But
and you might have said it, but Mike Tomlin's also he should be a coach of the year candidate as well.
Yeah, I would put him up there.
Yeah. Falcons Saints. I'm going to keep this pretty brief. The Saints are terrible.
Coach.
The specialty Darren Rizzi, special teams coach.
Who?
Green Bay actually interviewed him when LaFleur got hired.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then they didn't. They didn't hire him, and apparently the money was probably the deal breaker. The Saints offered more money, and I'm like, well, I hope it was worth it because our special teams kept us out of the Super Bowl. So, at least in one season, it did 21. But anyway, I think the Falcons win this game. The Saints, I would argue, outside. I think the Panthers are still worse. I think the Raiders might be worse, but this team they're in the bottom tier of the entire league. I can't pick them in good conscience. But they're down there with the Giants, Panthers, and Raiders. They're a really bad team. Even with Derek Carr, I'm taking the Falcons here pretty easily. Give me Falcons 27-17.
Yeah. I'll go Falcons 30-21, so pretty similar margin of victory there. Atlanta, I think they do go to Denver next week, so that'll be difficult, but
that'd be a fun game, actually.
It should be a fun game.
Yeah.
But whenever they're not going to be a team that's obvious. I know they had 2 tough tests with Tampa Bay, but they're through them, and Tampa Bay is not going to challenge them for the division now.
Yeah.
But the fact that they get Carolina and New Orleans is just kind of further proof that they just don't seem like they'll be tested come playoff time. But I still think they'll win this game here.
Yeah, we're destined, I think, to get Atlanta, Green Bay in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, I can see it.
Wild card weekend,
noon.
No, that'll be the Saturday night game on Peacock.
Yeah, Green Bay and Atlanta always seems to get the Saturday.
Yeah.
When they are in the playoffs, they always.
And NBC will figure out a way to make me pay for Peacock again. I'm assuming we made the playoffs. I don't know if that actually happens yet. San Francisco, Tampa. San Francisco, they're kind of the opposite of the Steelers. I still think they're a really good team, but they have underperformed dramatically every week that I pick them. That being said, I think Tampa is just a sinking ship, no pun intended. Give me the 49ers. I'm going to go pretty big, or as our new president-elect would say, bigly, 28-17.
Yeah, I think San Francisco, they were just on the bye this past week, weren't they?
San Francisco had a bye, yeah. They're healthier.
They kind of seem like a team now that they're going to emerge from the bye as the team that we kind of recognize a little bit better. I think Christian McCaffrey might even play this week because I think he was activated. So I have a feel, especially coming off the bye, they probably felt comfortable doing it now because it was an extra week of rest. I feel like San Francisco is going to start to round back into form here. And I feel like in a few weeks' time, we'll be saying, man, remember when they were 3-4 and they were, hardly hanging on. I think San Fran wins this one. I'm going to go 31-17.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go 27-14. And if McCaffrey plays, that's going to change a lot of things in the NFC. That's going to make the whole conference interesting, even including the team up in Detroit. Vikings, Jags.
Just a funny note about this. So this game's in Jacksonville.
Yes.
Do you know? Well, maybe this wouldn't be a good way. I'll put it this way. If you are in Tallahassee, which I'm not exactly sure how far
Tallahassee's 200 miles, or maybe not 200 miles, but It's about 2 hours west of Jacksonville.
Okay,
roughly.
so about 2 hours west.
Yeah.
So you can't watch the Jaguars if you're in Tallahassee.
Okay, that's
But
probably a Tampa market.
yes, but if you are in, I guess this would be what would be BLG in in Montana?
Billings.
Billings. If you're in Billings, Montana, you could watch this game.
Oh, they probably did that because like they'll say Montana is the Vikings.
Yeah, that would be the Vikings,
'Cause,
but
like,
I just it's
you're
a
not really
really
close
weird
to anything.
map. Like
Yeah.
it's the Jaguars are so close to Tallahassee, and Billings is so far from Tallahassee.
Yeah,
But Billings,
I don't even know if Tallahassee would like it. That is strange. Is this Fox?
this is Fox. Most of
Yeah.
Wisconsin, the Upper Peninsula, all of
My
Minnesota,
my
obviously.
guess is they designated Tallahassee as a Tampa market. I don't
Yeah,
know. That's weird. Like,
it is. Yeah, no, hey,
because I
Doug
don't know if
Peterson.
Tallahassee and Tampa are probably the same distance or roughly the same distance as Jacksonville is to Tallahassee. So, but like on a normal weekend where Jacksonville's on CBS, Jacksonville would be on CBS and then Tampa would be on Fox.
Yeah, and
That
they get
happens to like
both.
my in-laws live in Orlando. So like or used to. So Orlando's like an hour 30 from Tampa and Jacksonville's like 2 hours. So it's kind of the same thing. I think Tampa would get priority, but a lot of the times it doesn't matter. You still get both. I mentioned that this same scenario plays out with Columbus because
Oh yeah, we talked about that, right?
yeah, like who gets priority, like because they're about the same distance from each other, and
Yeah,
it's
they're
and
smack
Columbus is
dab.
actually a big market. Like, well, so is Orlando, I guess, but like who just wins that, and they're in the same damn division.
Yeah.
So like they play on CBS all the time. Or at least used to. I mean, things have changed now with the networks where this like an NFC matchup could be on CBS now.
Yeah.
But I will in this game, not to get too far off track, I will take Minnesota here. I thought their win last week was one of the more underrated wins. I
Yeah.
thought they could have potentially been reeling if they had lost a third straight game.
Yeah. They corrected themselves.
They corrected themselves against a team they should beat. Darnold got over the October curse. Now it's about the November curse. Can he? I guess it was November when he won that game by then, because I think we were past Halloween. So I think the Vikings continue. I think Jacksonville's not good. They did play Philly. They came back in that game. They were down pretty big. I'm gonna take the Vikings here though. I'll take them in a close game, 31-24.
I'm actually going to take Minnesota kind of comfortably in this game. I have a feeling that I don't know. I just have a feeling that the Vikings are going to pull away here, and I feel like I don't know. Until it happens, I'll probably keep predicting that Doug Peterson's going to get. He probably would have got fired if they didn't come back last week and make it a ball game against Philly.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the Justin Jefferson multiple touchdown game. Like I feel like he hasn't scored a touchdown in a while.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like one of the best. He's the best receiver in the NFL this year. But for fantasy purposes, I'm ready for him to explode, like for a 35-point game or something like that.
I'm gonna take Minnesota 34-17.
Yeah, Minnesota. I think they have a real argument. It's the second best team in the NFC. Them and the Commanders have that. They're tied for that argument, but I like the Vikings a lot. It's too bad for them. They're stuck with Detroit.
Yeah.
We can be pretty brief on this game. I'm taking the Chargers. I'm taking them.
Is that supposed to be -7.5?
Yes. Sorry.
I am definitely I'm going to.
Yeah. Oh, that's the easiest bet. That's it. That's what you call it.
Yeah, I would tease so many points on that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take the Chargers are 7.5-point favorites, not underdogs. Sorry for the graphic. That was incorrect. But I'm going to take Chargers here comfortably. They're going to run all over Tennessee. I think Tennessee's not hard to stop. I think this is the biggest blowout of the weekend, 28-10. Classic Harbaugh blowout.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Chargers 31-10.
Uh, I'm also going to be pretty quick about this game. I think Dallas' season is pretty much over.
Yeah, they are done. It's Jover.
Yeah, Dak's hurt. The team sucks. I think everybody knows it. I think the question now is, does McCarthy get fired at the end of the year? What do you think?
Yeah, I think he will.
I think he will too. I don't even think it's his fault. I think the roster is so flawed.
I'd be afraid as a Bears fan that Jerry Jones will shell out all the money for Ben Johnson.
Hey,
because he can do it.
I have a great idea.
Bill?
Mike McCarthy to the Bears.
That would be such a Bears thing.
He's won a Super Bowl.
I know he has, but
and he had an Aaron Rodgers type quarterback. Or he had Aaron Rodgers, and now he's gonna have Caleb
Williams.
Oh, I can't wait. Oh, that's gonna be great. That's gonna be
see. No, what'll happen? Yeah, I could.
Y'all are gonna have the best pad level in the league.
Because as somebody was saying last week with the Bears, they're like, "Oh wow, it reminds. This is so much like Trestman," and I was like, "Yeah, you know what they're gonna do? They'll fire the dorky guy and hire the retread coach, the old retread." So McCarthy, he fits the John Fox model.
Oh yeah, because Fox was on his third team.
Yeah,
but in all seriousness, I don't think McCarthy's getting his third chance. The only team that would hire him are the Bears. So you're right.
It would. What would happen is because the McCaskies aren't football people, they hire like outside, like they hire Bill Polian to help. I think the last 2 times, and Bill Polian will be like, "Yeah, I think Bill Polian's got to be 98 years old by now, by the way." And he'll say, "I think you should hire."
He built the early 90s Bills. They're like 30 years. That team was 30 years ago.
Yeah, Marv Levy.
He had Marv Levy.
Remember Marv Levy, like a few years, like after Rex Ryan got fired, before they hired McDermott, Marv Levy wanted to come back and coach the Bills.
That would have been awesome.
It was like already 88 at that time. Do you know Jerry Glanville is still coaching?
Yeah, it's like some obscure league. Yeah,
he's coaching a Division II. He's a defensive coordinator for a Division II school.
Yeah, my favorite thing actually is every time the Bears have an opening at head coach, Big Cat always tweets the Jeff Fisher, like Matthew McConaughey voiced over. I can't remember.
To move forward, you got to go back.
Not what? Like, I love that commercial so much because it's like I'm thinking, like, what are we talking about? Like, no, you don't.
There's always a few Bears fans that are like, they should hire Singletary. Or Ron Rivera. That'll be another guy.
Yeah. And get a guy from the 85 Bears on the team. Yeah.
It'll be perfect. It'll be their 40th anniversary next year, and they could bring back.
Oh God! Hey, that'll be a good photo op at midfield for the game. Going back to this game though, so we talked about Dallas and how I think they're toast. I'm gonna take Philly 28-14 pretty convincingly. The one thing that's interesting about Philly is I think we cast them aside. But they've played pretty well the last month.
I know. It's what we seem to be like kind of the kiss of
death.
The kiss of death on some of these teams. And like it works vice versa as well.
Yeah, like after their loss to the Browns, that was like their last bad week.
No, they beat the Browns, but they looked terrible.
Excuse me. They looked terrible against the Browns, but like ever since that happened and like after that they got killed for that game, even though they won. They've played really well. I'll give them credit. And I think the momentum is going to continue. I'm taking the Eagles. Like I said, 28-14.
Do you know the Eagles all time have a losing record?
They must have been really bad in like the fifth. No, they won I don't know. I don't know that much about.
I know they were bad in like in the 60s and 70s, early 70s. But geez, that they've been good for.
They've been good since
they're the most. How would you say? Well, they're the most successful NFC team this millennium.
Yeah, I mean, because you had Andy Reid for over a decade, and then they've been pretty successful even after Andy Reid.
Yeah, they've been to 3
Chip Kelly
Super
went to the
Bowls.
playoffs, and and Chip Kelly was a bad hire, and they still had more success than the average NFL team. The Eagles are on a low key, pretty spoiled franchise.
Oh, they are. Philadelphia in general, they always love to play the woe is me, but they're always I would love to be a Phillies fan, and they have the coolest playoff atmosphere. It looks like always every year, and yeah, screw Philly, but yeah, they'll win this week. I'm gonna take them by. I'm gonna take them by a touchdown, 28-21.
Okay. Jets Cardinals. The Jets, they won last week, and actually in pretty impressive fashion. I mean, they really did kind of dominate the Texans, who have been a good team this year.
2 weeks ago.
The question is it too little too late? And if the Jets win, is it like a run the table type of is that the talking point?
They'd be 4-6, just
yeah. I still think it's too little too late. And I think before the run the table momentum starts, I think they get stopped in its tracks. I think the Cardinals win here. Cardinals have been another team like the Eagles, where I think a lot of people around the league haven't necessarily noticed how well they're playing over the last year. The Cardinals have been awesome. Gannon's a really good coach. And
they have a really great running game, which is kind of weird. They've been better when Kyler Murray hasn't thrown the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, that is weird to say. And like last week, Kyler Murray didn't really do much.
He didn't do anything.
Yeah, but they didn't have to because.
No, he didn't have to because they ran for 220 yards.
That touchdown at the end of the half is a disgrace. But the DeMarcado one for 50 yards. So
I know.
Yeah. But yeah, I've been high on the Cardinals for 2 years. I think they're one of the best coach teams in the NFL. I really love Gannon as a coach. I think he's just wonderful. I think he does more with less because this team's still not super deep in terms of talent. But I think he even showed last year he did a lot with a little. I'm going to take the Cardinals here. And what's interesting about them too is two of their losses probably skew their DVOA so much because the Packers game and the Rams game. Not the Rams game. Who do they get blown out against?
The Commanders.
The Commanders game because they blew out the Rams. Excuse me, but the Commanders game and the Packers game. If you took those two out of the sample. This team's actually, I would bet, one of the best teams in the league from a metric standpoint. I'm willing to say that those were more flukish. I think a good Cardinals team is the more realistic team week to week. I'm going to say the Cardinals. In a close game, I'm going to take 24-20 for Arizona.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Jets to cover, but the Cardinals
1.5 point spread.
Yeah. So I'm going to take Arizona 28-27.
Okay. Great game here.
Is it?
I think both teams are more similar than we give them credit. I think that the Lions, in my opinion, are a better version of the Texans. The one argument I would make against Detroit, for example, last week, they're not an explosive offense.
Oh no.
They
were the ones that needed to add a wide receiver.
They score a lot of points, but they and to their credit, they're the best team in the league when it comes to executing. They don't make mistakes. When it's third down, Jared Goff makes the right read, and he's been doing it every time. And that, to his credit, I'm not taking away from the Lions, but it's they don't get anything necessarily easy. If you go back and actually watch the Packers game, Green Bay outgained them 400-200. Green Bay, basically, I think, like, kind of asserted their will in a lot of ways in that game, but, like, kept screwing it up, like, with bad penalties, drop passes, and then, of course, Jordan Love's pick six. But, like, even Amon-Ra's touchdown came on a 4th down at the end of the drive.
And so did Jahmyr Gibbs' touchdown, right?
Yeah. It did, yeah, so Green Bay just and to Detroit's credit, they executed, they made the play. Okay, I get it. But the Texans actually are kinda similar in a lot of ways, like, they've not been impressive, but I also think a lot of their explosiveness has gone away because Collins has been out. I think Collins is gonna continue to be out this week as well. Um, I think Stroud and Goff actually have a lot of similarities in their game. Very accurate, but not like explosive playmaking types per se. Uh, I think this is a really interesting because I think a lot of people are going to say the Lions to win, and so am I. But I'm nervous. I think this is a game I think Detroit could slip up in, but I'm not going to pick that. I'm still going to take the Lions 26-21. Uh, and I think this is a game they get outplayed in. If you look at like total yards, but they end up winning. And the funny thing about that is, like, I think that I will continue thinking I still think the Lions are the best team in the NFL right now because of how well they are coached. I think Dan Campbell's just outstanding. But I wonder by the end of the year, we're looking at DVOA and we're like, I don't know about this team. Like, are they more of a benefit of just like everything bounced their way in terms of like turnover battle? Like, the classic, like, the team that has, like, a plus 25, like, turnover, turnover, like, the top teams in turnover differential, like, you don't wanna necessarily rely on that either.
Yeah.
Like, Green Bay's defense 2011. Like, you get outgained every game, but you're turning the other team over 3 times. Is that actually sustainable?
Right.
That's my only question with Detroit, but I think they win this game. I think because the Texans to me are kind of a similar team. I'm gonna just take the better version of that. I'm gonna take Detroit.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Detroit. I think it'll be 30-23.
Yeah.
So a touchdown in the difference. Yet Detroit hasn't turned over the ball since September. Or excuse me, they've only turned over the ball once since September.
That's what I'm saying. Is like they're so fundamentally good, like in everything that's important in terms of winning a game. But like, part of me wants to see this team go out and outgain somebody. Like, by 100 yards. And like, of course they could do it to like the Titans. I don't really care about that. Like, let me go back to a sample. Like, so I mentioned I mentioned the Packers game last week. Let me find the Lions Vikings. Let's look at that box score. So I'm on the team stats, like Jared Goff, 280 yards. So I mean, I guess they did outgain Minnesota, so I'll give them that. But like they're not necessarily like, in my opinion. The Vikings had more yards per play, but they only outgained Minnesota by 8 yards. I don't think they're like, the way they dominate isn't by like, it's not San Francisco where I feel like they can just run over a team. It's they do everything right and they're well coached and they give you the death by 1,000 paper cuts, which I also admire. But I just want to see them win in another way too. Like, that's my last step before I'm just ready to crown Detroit like king of the NFC. Like, they're right there, but I want to see them dominate. Like, I want to see Jared Goff almost turn the ball over 2 times and them still win. If they can do that, then I think they could beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that.
Because the Chiefs are a team that's great. Like, Mahomes could throw 2 picks, and I still think they win.
Yeah.
Like, the Chiefs could like literally fumble a game and be like, no, we still got it. We're the Chiefs. That's the sign of a great team.
Yeah.
The Lions are a very, very good team. So that's my only step now for them to see but they're the best team in the NFC. I think it's not even close right now. So, but we're both going Detroit there. this is the frustration bowl.
Yeah.
I think the Rams, I guess, have at least kind of come back and, they're in the mix again in the NFC. I was rooting so hard for Miami last week because, like I said, I'm a fan of division races and wild card races. Miami the last 2 weeks and just losing those close games. I think they're done now. I mean, they're 2-6. They're only a half game up on the Patriots in the AFC East. They're not good. It's frustrating. I think the Rams are going to run away with this game. I'm surprised it's only a 1-point spread. I think this game being in LA, I think this might be the end of the Dolphins season right here. Officially, I think this might be a funeral game for the Dolphins. I'm gonna go 28-21.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Rams 24-20. Yeah, I think Miami. I know it didn't really matter anyways last week because the kicker for Buffalo, I can't think of his name, drilled that 61-yarder. But Bass, yeah, to win it. But I was kind of disappointed Miami didn't go for 2.
With the season on the line like that, yeah.
Yeah, your season's on the line, and also yeah, he hit the 61-yarder, but how many 61-yarders are you gonna hit outside? So you at least, because to me,
especially
I thought
he had missed an extra
time, which they were playing for overtime.
And Bass had missed an extra point.
Yeah, so
in the game. So Miami, I think
you need this, and so that seemed totally just not who they were the last 2 years with McDaniels. That seemed like they would take advantage of an opportunity like that in years past, but they're not doing that this year. And Tua did look decent on Sunday. I felt. But
I think Tua has played pretty well the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, I think since Tua has come back, he's been fine. I mean, they were basically neck and neck with the Cardinals.
Yeah, they lost on game-winning field goals the last 2 weeks when you think about it. They could be 4-4.
Yeah. They're one of the, I actually think if you look at their yards, yardage differential in the games that Tua has started and finished. I'll even include that Dolphins game or the Bills game, but even in that Bills game. So remember that was a 31-10 just crush, right?
Yeah.
What do you think the total yardage in that game was for the Dolphins?
Well, the Bills scored on 3. Well, they had 2 defensive touchdowns and they scored on 2 short fields the other time. So I'd imagine Miami probably still won the yardage battle.
Miami outgained Buffalo by 100 yards, 351 to 247. And they lost by 21 points. They outgained Jacksonville basically nearly 2-1. And then the Cardinals, like I said, they were neck and neck, and they outgained Buffalo. This is a team that's been kind of I can't even count the other games because Tyler Huntley was just so bad, and I guess it was Tim Boyle was their other quarterback at some point. Their other quarterback play was Skylar Thompson was so bad that you can't really count those games. This team hasn't been that bad with Tua, but they have just they've had some pretty poor luck, and they were mismanaged at the backup quarterback position. So but I also think the Rams are a much better team than their record indicates. What are they, 4-4 now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean they've scrapped their way back. I think the main difference is I think Sean McVay is a much better coach than Mike McDaniel, and I think that's the difference in the game. That's why I'm gonna take the Rams by a touchdown. You have anything else on this game?
Nah.
My last question for you before we go, and it's a simple yes or no. Does Mike McDaniel get fired at the end of the season?
Stephen Ross is a little bit cutthroat. So I could see it, but I could also see him arguing the season got lost when Tua went down. I guess it depends on how they finish the year.
I agree. I'm gonna say no. I think McDaniel gets one more year.
Like if they finish like 5-12, then maybe. But if they finish like 7-10 or whatever, I think he sticks around.
But I also think McDaniel has not been very impressive this year.
Oh gosh, no.
And I think he is probably one of the biggest losers of the entire season when it comes.
Well, when
to
you think about like some teams, like when Green Bay lost Love for a couple games, like, and what's his face, Malik Willis had to come in, and like they altered their offense so that they could still do well with him. You know, good coaches, good offensive minded guys know how to work an offense that not fit their system for any quarterback. They fit a system around a quarterback, you know. And they're able to
anything in life. Anything in life is like that. You want to tailor a workplace environment to the skills of your worker or your football player or whatever. Like, you know, you try to set them up for success so they can deliver you the best possible results. And that's something Mike McDaniel has just failed to do this season.
Yeah.